Sabres are all but eliminated, but there's still a small thread chance. We'll talk about that and more after this intro. What's up, everyone, and welcome to Sabres Edge podcast presented by Nickel City Mafia. My name is Top Shelf Timmy Corks, and my co-host is Sammy Saucy Miss. Sammy, what's going on, my man?
Well, not too much. I mean, it's been a pretty. It's been a week for the Sabres, but for me personally, I've been doing pretty well. The weather's been nice enough, so I've been playing a little street hockey myself. So.
Oh, nice.
That's been fun. Yeah.
Where are you playing it at?
There's a little park over in Cheektowaga.
Okay.
So I don't really know. I don't know what it's called, to be honest. My brother just kind of sent me a link and he's like, "This is where you're going." I'm like, "Okay, Google Maps, get me there."
That's fine. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the weather up here, we're starting to get a nor'easter. So we're going to have some bad weather coming up the next couple of days. So was enjoying the sun. It was 50 sunny. I was walking my dog on the beach, enjoying it. And now I'll probably be stuck inside. But as we talk right now, Sabres season, or this past week, has just been a reflection of the Sabres season. It's been a yo-yo of bad game, good game, bad game, good game. But the Sabres still sit out 5 points out from the last wild card spot. So we'll go over the games real quick. So with last week, the first game was last Wednesday, March 27th. The Sabres lost 6-2 to the Ottawa Senators. That was that trap game that we were talking about. Next up on Friday, they won against the New Jersey Devils 5-2. And then following a back-to-back, they faced the Maple Leafs, and I'm sure everyone saw all across, any hockey, if you follow it on any sort of social media, the comments about the amount of Leafs fans at the game, but they got shut out by the Leafs 3-0. We'll talk about that more. And then finally, last night's game was a big occasion. It was Skinner's 1,000th game. Sam, you're in attendance as well, so that's a huge occasion as well.
Yeah.
And the Sabres showed up for it, and they won 6-2. Sam, what is your overall thoughts from the week or each game individually?
Okay, so starting from the beginning, the Ottawa Senators game. That was the kind of moment where it's you take not many games on that road trip. You're back at home. You're starting your homestand. It's do or die, baby. Let's go.
Yeah.
And they ran out the gate, tripped, landed on their face. That was a terrible game to watch. I got through, I think it was 1.5 periods of it before I was like, I just can't. They don't have the energy to bring a comeback. The way that they were playing, you could just tell this isn't one of those games where you maybe pick it up and dig yourself out of this hole. The team was not playing that game. They did not show up. It's the story we've been talking about. You start a game poorly, you dig yourself into this hole, and if you're not going to have the energy in the second half to dig yourself out, I'm tuning out. I just don't have the willpower to watch that. Then we went to the Devils game, and we kind of do the opposite to those guys. We beat them 5-2, and I was just like, that's the quintessential Buffalo Sabres experience. You got the team that's bad, who's been struggling the whole year, and the first game of your homestand, back in front of your fans when they know it matters, and you lay an egg, And then after everyone's like, well, you did it. You lost against a better team who's also in the hunt. You just destroy them. So, shout out Sabres. I think that the Maple Leafs game, the third game of the week, was a little misleading. A 3-0 score probably doesn't do justice. We played well that game.
Yeah.
I think it was Samsonov in that game, and he stood on his head. So good for him. Hate that he's doing that against us on a game where you have, what do we have, like a 0.8% chance of making the playoffs right now. It's not over until it's over, baby. But that's kind of rude of you, Samsonov. You make that one a tougher game than maybe we would have liked it to have been.
It's his revenge game from the 9-3 game that we beat him on. So
yeah.
He had that extra motivation.
And then, of course, Sabres versus Capitals. We destroy those. We way outplayed the Capitals. At one point, we were looking up at like the shot total, and it was like 30-11 in favor of us. Like, we were destroying them. Obviously, the early goal was frustrating because you're like, we didn't show up again. First period, we didn't show up. We get scored on in the first, on the first shot. It was.
Yeah. But
they brought it back. They played better than the Capitals. I have no idea how the Capitals are in the wild card spot right now, because that's a conversation we're going to have about the wild card teams right now, because that is a team that is minus 35 in goal differential. In almost every metric, they're in the lower half of the league, and here they are.
How'd you know I was going to bring that up, Sam? Goal differentials.
Because we're finally even. Let's go, Buffalo.
Yeah.
No, but the Skinner game, incredibly fun game, and it's one of those ones like we've talked about it before. We know how we stand on Skinner. I love the guy.
Yeah.
What a great energy. What a great guy. I wish he were more his prime self than he is now, but after you play 1,000 games, you rarely are, right? But I really am happy for him.
Were you there for Oki's 1002?
I was there for that one too. I have on the little back there
the gold stick or the silver stick they gave you.
Sorry, it's a silver stick.
Yeah.
The thing that they had for Skinner's was a hat, a beanie.
Right? Yeah.
I got there too late. All 1,000 or 10,000 were taken. Yeah, we went and got food beforehand, so we missed some of the pregame celebrations. But the food was good, so I can't complain much.
Some people are saying that the Skinner celebration was a little bit more than the Okposo celebration. At least that's what I heard on WGR. So I don't know too much about that, but again, felt like
I missed the pregame. So if there was something big in the pregame, I did not see it. I saw the at roughly 7-ish, they started a ceremony on the ice with his family, and I thought that was almost exactly the same as what Kyle's was.
Yeah.
So, and they had the testimonies from his family, the people he's played with, coaches, which I thought they did for Kyle as well. I'm pretty sure. So
yeah, I think maybe it was just more of the social media aspect, because he had those between two stalls series. They had
the episode with Tage Thompson hosting for Jeff as the guest, which was funny. If any of you haven't seen that yet, I highly recommend it. Between Two Stalls was a great series.
It was. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, he's a great personality. Before I give my thoughts, just want to give out a shout out to Tom. Tom is still believing in this team, and he says, "We are back, baby, for now." I mean, still, I think, if they would have lost last night, it would have been a 0.5% chance. But yeah, I think they're at
0.05.
0.05. Okay, sorry.
Wait, no. Yeah, 0.5%. Sorry, it's I'm so used to reading the percentages and the fraction, so it'll be 0.005 or whatever.
Yeah.
So, sorry. Yeah, but you're right. Good. It is 0.5%.
No, you're good. So kind of my overall thoughts. I don't really want to go over the Ottawa game. it kind of sucks that you have a West Coast trip at the end of the season and you basically come back home. You have time to recover, maybe a day and a half, and then you come and play Ottawa. And you saw that when the Sabres faced the Red Wings and the Islanders, where you're just out of funk when you come from a West Coast trip, and it's almost like a guaranteed loss no matter who you face. And honestly, Ottawa's kind of been on a hot streak right now. Them and Montreal, they've been winning games against like pretty big opponents, because last night, was it last night? Yeah, it was last night. Montreal beat the Florida Panthers. The Florida Panthers are kind of on a skid right now, which kind of bodes good if the Sabres want to finish out undefeated for the season. But anyways, I'm just going to ignore that game. It's whatever. Then you go to the Devils game. Tage gets 4 goals in that night. He had a season, or he had a game like last season. He kind of took over and control of that game. So that was a fun, exciting game to watch. I guess we can delve into the Maple Leafs game a little bit more. Like you said, Sabres got goalied. Samsonov had his revenge game. But a lot of people have been noticing the amount of Maple Leafs fans that were at the game. And I know that's a big we've talked about it earlier in the season. And there were some people probably taking some comments out of hand from the players after the game. First of all, I'm sure everyone knows Toronto home games, they're impossibly expensive for regular fans. We've heard this. So when a team has a chance to go see their favorite team play in a opposing city very close, it makes it easier for them to buy those tickets. And I think it doesn't help that Austin Matthews was on the verge of scoring 60 goals. And that's why I think the building was really full, is that, hey, these regular fans get to see Austin Matthews score 60 goals. So 60th goal. So that's a big thing. And what do you expect at the end of the day? I mean, that's just kind of a reflection on overall the organization that, hey, you got to put a better product on the ice for you to attract your own fans. And those post-game comments from Dylan Cousins, I mean, I think he's been the one that's been attacked the most for some odd reason, because he literally stated in his comments that, hey, I hope to one day that we get fans like that at our own games. And people that hear like the after part about that. But he says after that, but I know we have to earn that first.
Yeah.
That was the biggest part. And for people to blow up on Dylan Cousins over that comment's kind of crazy. No, him and Tuck both said, the right things. I can go after them for them still complaining about the booing back in the past. We're not going to do that. We're over that. But no. I mean, what are you going to do? Everyone knows every fan knows what it takes for the Sabres to regain their fans. And to finish off the week against the Washington game, that first period was kind of like watching two bumbling idiots fight with each other.
Yeah.
But the second and third period, I mean, you saw the potential of what the Sabres could be. Because after that, they were dominant. Goaltending was dominant. Everyone was playing well. Dahlin was controlling that game. Benson looked great. Paterka looked great. Tage looked great. Tuck looked great. They all got points. And this season's kind of been a wash, but that's encouraging to know that this team has that in them. And they need to keep that going throughout the season. At least that was my takeaway from the week. I know I'm usually negative, but I don't know. I'm feeling a little positive tonight, Sam.
Hey, you're seeing the silver lining. What more can we ask for?
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm excited. There's a couple things I took away from even that last game too, and we'll talk about it later. It pertains to Cousins and Krebs. But overall, no. I mean, to go play against Washington, which, like you mentioned, I can't believe Washington's even in the mix right now. They looked horrendous.
They're not a good team.
No, and it's just when you think about it, like, I can't believe we're behind this team. This team's going to make it to the playoffs is disheartening. But it was encouraging to see that the talent is there in that team. That's all I'm going to take away from that game. Is that was probably one of those last two periods were probably some of their best dominant performances throughout the season. At least that's how I felt. I don't know if they felt that way at all.
Yeah, no, those were great 2 periods. There was the one Red Wings game where we just completely dominated them, and that was probably the one that I would attribute as like the best game of our season. But yeah, no, during the second half of that Capitals game, it was all us. It never felt like they had a chance against us once we started rolling.
Yeah, even when the Capitals got that second goal, I was just like, they're not going to win this game. There's no way. Yeah, so I don't know. Did you have any other takeaways from the games at all, or did you want to go back in the Maple Leafs? Do you have comments about that?
Not on the specific games, but like kind of more broadly, kind of team composition. And before that, I just want to address Tom. Do I need a Skinner red hat? I very much appreciate the offer, but I'm actually okay. I probably have enough Sabres hats lying around here, and beanies included. So I, again, appreciate the offer, but I'll have to pass on that. Anyway, back to the kind of team composition. What I think you're talking about how during the Capitals game, you saw the vision, you saw different members of the team just on like rolling. I think what we're seeing now, the big change that has been made, and I think it was I don't remember which game it shifted, but it's been maybe like a week or two that it's happened, is unfortunately for Skinner, he's not in the top 9 anymore. His spot on the top line has been replaced with JJ Peterka. How many points? Because we love this game. How many points? How many points do you think JJ Peterka has in the last 5 games?
He had 3 goals, 2 assists, 5 points.
In the past 5 games?
Yeah.
He's got 6 points.
One off.
JJ is over a point per game in the last 5 games, right? Tage Thompson, who had been struggling to find his footing earlier in the season. How many points does he have in the last 5 games?
4 goals. He had an assist in the Ottawa game. Did he have 2 assists in it? 7.
He has 9 points in the last 5 games.
2 off.
So, moral of the story is that top line is clicking, and it's in the absence of Skinner.
Yeah.
You have a guy who's up there, basically like one of the prospects still, who's up there, who's playing lights out and allowing the other people on that line to just have more offense to their game. Because when Tage Thompson doesn't have offense to his game, he has nothing. Let's be honest here. His defense is very bad.
Yeah.
When he's producing 9 points, 9 points in 5 games, you can overlook everything else.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it's like, even if you see those times where it's like, ooh, that was tough in the defensive zone. I don't care. You scored 4 against New Jersey. Like you are making up for anything that you might be giving up right now. So
yeah,
JJ Peterka on that top line has really unlocked that. And another line that I think has been looking very good, or at least in the last 2 games, has been Benson, Quinn, and Cousins. Quinn's finally kind of returning to his form, which we had missed during the Ottawa game. During the Ottawa game, Quinn looked exhausted. After the first 3 shifts, he was kind of just bagging it throughout the rest of the game. And I'm like, that is a tough return to make. Obviously, you have to have some sort of starting point, but you'd hope it would be better than that. And that was a very tough game for Quinn. Now, 3 games later, he's looking dominant again. And he's doing it with an 18-year-old and a Dylan Cousins who has been chronically underperforming this year.
Hold on. I thought you were talking about Benson this whole entire time. You're talking about Quinn.
Oh, yeah, I'm talking about Quinn.
I think you said Benson. I don't think you ever said Quinn. Maybe my brain just shut off. But yeah, keep going. Sorry.
I thought I had said Quinn. Maybe. Either way, I'm talking about Quinn. He's the one who returned during the Ottawa game. He's the one who had the slow start, and he's kind of getting back into form now.
Yeah.
And he's helping carry up this line of him, Benson, and Cousins. And again, they looked electric during that last game. And it's like we've seen the struggles from Cousins. We've seen how kind of Benson has been not super effective in actuality during his time up at the Sabres. Don't get me wrong, for an 18-year-old, what he's doing is very good. But if you held him against the standard of someone who had been in the league for a while, his impact's not great. But that line is all of a sudden looking fantastic. And again, that's in the absence of having Jeff Skinner in your top six. Jeff Skinner has been pushed down to a line that was him, Rushek, and Peyton Krebs. Although Rushek's probably going to be Jordan Greenway during the next game or in the foreseeable future. My point being is the team is playing its best hockey when Skinner is not in the top six. And again, love Skinner. Congratulations on 1,000 games, buddy. But I like the look of the lineup when he's not on it or pushed further down.
Oh, yeah. I totally agree. And I feel like Benson's been kind of playing his best hockey since he's been paired up with Quinn, to be honest with you. He's looked very dominant. He's been making plays. He had some nice passes the last game, too. That pass that he had to Tuck that he dumped it off to. Was it Paterka or Thompson on that goal? I forgot who it was.
That was Thompson from Jack Quinn and Benson.
Hold on. Really?
Yeah.
I thought it was Tuck that was in front of the net.
I'm pretty sure it's Thompson.
No, Thompson that scored, but Tuck who had the primary assist and Benson had the secondary assist.
Nah, Benson and Quinn had assists on an Alex Tuck goal.
All right. Anyways, he's looked pretty good. That line's looked good overall. I do still kind of, still kind of question if Dylan Cousins is a second line center sometimes.
Oh, absolutely. That is a very valid question to have.
Because he's seemingly you can see the line get momentum between Quinn bringing up the puck or Benson or even a defender. And then they pass the puck up to Cousins and he kind of just stalls it because he just it's like he has lead hands and he just loses the puck automatically. He just destroys the potential of a drive right there. And this is something I mentioned at the beginning of the season where, I don't know what to do with this guy at this point. What does he have to work on to do this? Maybe get soft mitts. But it's something that I've noticed throughout the season, and I've kind of kept quiet about it. But now it's just all right, where this was happening for the past, 2 years for him. You even saw it last year too. When is he going to take that next step? Because to be a second line center, that's a big deal. And a lot of people say all the Sabres have are second line centers. They don't have a first line center because people are coming after Thompson too. Right. Which arguably is true. To
be honest, this year we've only had third line centers. With the exception of maybe Middlestat. But on a Stanley Cup team, I think, or on a contender, he's a third line center.
Yeah.
Is what he's playing for Colorado right now, I think. So
I think so. Yeah.
Maybe he's their 2C. I cannot remember.
I think they traded for Intense for him to be a 2C, but I don't know what he's playing currently on the team. I'll be honest with you. I haven't been really following the West Coast because that's pretty much all set, that division, that conference right there. No, I just wonder what's the future for Dylan Cousins and also Peyton Krebs too, because we've talked earlier in the year, now that he's off the fourth line, maybe he can build up to his potential. Maybe he can grow. And the first couple of games, he looked good and energized. And now he's kind of settling back down to kind of mediocrity or even less than average than what you expect from the guy. And I'm almost questioning that maybe this is a guy who's probably not on the roster next year and gets traded for him to get a new chance somewhere else, because I don't think it's going to work out here for this guy. And that's something that I thought about after the game yesterday and earlier today. And then I kind of listened to another Sabres podcast, and they also brought that up too about Krebs as well. So those are kind of my two thoughts there. I don't know if you have any thoughts from that.
I guess my only question is, if your fourth line of the future was Peyton Krebs, Jordan Greenway, and literally, I don't know, Lucas Rushek, are you upset with that?
I wouldn't. No, I don't think so.
My point is, I just do think that Peyton Krebs still has value, even if he never hits the offensive potential that he was kind of touted with. I think that he is a real fourth liner in the NHL with maybe more offensive upside than we've gotten from Zemgus and Kyle for the past like 6 years or whatever. So if going forward you have Greenway, Krebs, and I think you can literally like plug and play any other NHL replacement player, you're looking pretty good as your fourth line. Obviously, that is assuming that you have roster construction that can slot those two players into your fourth line, actually.
Yeah.
But that's not a bad place to be, I don't think.
I also wonder if, because you have to think about him too, what if he still has value across the league?
Right.
Would you want to sell him high and pair him with something else to maybe get a guy who wouldn't be a fourth liner? Because I feel like the Sabres have a potential to have a lot of guys be your fourth liners. They got fourth liners.
Who on our team's a fourth liner? Who on our team is someone who could be slotted into an effective fourth line role? Well, I can name two people.
Well, Gergensen's from the.
Gergensen. Sorry. Yeah. I can name three people.
Yeah. Gergensen's, Rusek, it's coming up to him that, this is the plan for him to be a fourth line player for a while. You got Brendan Byro, who's going to still down in Rochester.
Brendan Byro's like 26 now.
And that's the thing.
Brendan Byro, like, unfortunately for him, he's 26. He's not an NHLer, and he doesn't play like a fourth liner.
But the other part, too, is that you can get a fourth liner via free agency. And I'd rather the team try to sell this guy high. This is going to be the highest that he's at right now for the Sabres. Because the other part is, we're going to be meddling with him between a fourth line and a third line center and blocking for more prospects to come up or even potential to make roster spots for free agents coming in or trades.
The way you can go on. You can.
No, I just don't see the use for a Krebs anymore. If I'm going to have a fourth line guy, I want someone that's going to be a little bit taller and a little bit tougher and a more defensive oriented type of guy.
Right.
And he just doesn't bring that to the table. I'm sorry. Like, you're 5'10", man. You're not a fourth line center.
He's like 6'0".
No.
Yeah. Hold on. We can get the stats on him. He's 5'11". Split the difference, I guess.
Okay.
And also, he's got feistiness to him. He's not just like he is distinct from the rest of the roster.
He is, but he was forced to be distinct from the rest of the roster to stay on the NHL roster.
And now that's what we have with him. So
yeah.
The way that I see it, though, for next year at least, like, I'd be very willing to have this conversation after next year. But what I would think about is he's like serviceable, or he's definitely a fourth line center, but I think he's more serviceable as a third line center because of the potential offensive upside than a lot of other like fourth line kind of like the people that are conscripted as like fourth liners. Same with Jordan Greenway, right? You could have him kind of flux or move between the third or fourth line, and then you're going to need like someone else to fill in that wing or whatever. Next year, I have a feeling that our third line is going to get the minutes of a fourth line, and it's going to be a bunch of skilled young players. Because just with the way that our system's looking, you have a lot of players that you're probably looking to call up right now, whether it be Rosine, Kulik, Savoy. Osland, anyone who can make an argument that they should belong on the team should probably get at least a look with how, like, it doesn't really look like we have anything else. We're not a destination for free agents right now. Like, I would imagine that our roster would include a line of very young players, very inexperienced players. And I would imagine they would technically be the third line based on skill, but are actually the fourth based on time. And that's why I think you want those flex players like a Greenway and Krebs for next season, at least, where, yeah, they're the fourth line in respect to they're here to provide you energy. They're here to provide you kind of that grit that you don't get from the rest of the team, but they're actually playing more minutes than their respective line name would say.
Yeah, no, I agree with that.
And then if he still sucks after next year, absolutely, let's have that conversation about, do we think that he still has value around the league? Can people still see him as a prospect or a reclamation project? Does it make sense? Is his development being hindered here based on all of the factors that we have? Can we swing a trade, right? But I do think for next year, he still holds a large amount of value for me, at least.
Yeah.
And with him just already being here, I think there's no reason not to keep him around for at least one more year.
Yeah, I respect that. I don't know. Personally, I could see him leaving this offseason. I can see him being a trade or piece of a trade somewhere, just because, I don't know. I feel like the development project that is Krebs for the Sabres is kind of over with at this point. And, if he stays, I wouldn't be surprised either. But I don't know. It's tough to see a guy with his potential be a fourth liner on the Sabres, also being the feisty guy for the team too.
Yeah,
I guess that's the deal for him at this point, but who knows? I mean, if the Sabres can actually sell this guy high for, potential, then I'd be more interested in that as well. Anyways, Tom asks, where's Bryson been?
Bryson? Bryson's been playing.
He's got some points. He had 2 points in one of the games, right?
I do not know. I am not ever watching Bryson too carefully for my own sanity, but
I think it was in the New Jersey game. I was looking at the box scores earlier. So
okay, well, good for Bryson. I'm glad he's getting his points in, and he's looked pretty solid with Clifton. So as much as I do like to make fun of Bryson, and I've done it throughout the whole year, I can't complain about the way he's played over the last, ever since he got really called up and has been playing solid minutes. Like, him and Clifton, they've been solid. They're exactly what you need from a third pair.
Yeah.
And it seems like our problems for the defense are actually happening kind of higher up the lineup. So that's always lovely when that rears its head. But are we ready to have the conversation about whether or not Bowen Byram's actually good?
That's a great conversation to have. That's a tough one because he's kind of fallen off a cliff since he's came over in the trade. And I've questioned how much of that is him adjusting to the system now, because back when he came over, he's playing the Avalanche type of system. Like, you don't have time to learn the system of the Sabres in just a couple of games. And he actually looked solid when he came over.
Yeah.
And now maybe because he's adjusting to the system and the way Granato wants defensemen to play, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. And I'm not going to give Donnie the benefit of the doubt.
Okay.
So I don't want to give up on him yet, saying maybe he's not that good. Maybe it's the system's getting to him. I don't know. What do you think? Because I don't want to give up on him yet.
The reality is, when we traded for him, the discourse around him was injury prone.
Yep.
He's had concussion issues. He's sat out for a lot of time in his young career.
Yep.
Then there's the people saying how much they love him and they got the rose-colored glasses on from the cup win, which he was instrumental in.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's the third layer of people saying Bowen Byram is a disaster on the ice. He turns it over. He skates into the opponent and just like loses the puck, makes bad passes, doesn't play defense well. And if you can look past that, is an elite offensive weapon. And I think that's the version of Bowen Byram that all of Colorado has already seen, that we are now getting. Well, past the just brief, like, the exhilaration of joining a new team, you put up a few points at the beginning, you show that elite offensive talent that, we were sold on, that everyone is aware that he has. But at the end of the day, we got a lot of puck-moving defensemen. How many of them are good in our own zone? The answer is Dahlin.
Yeah, because we got that project in power right now.
Yeah, so now you're taking on basically what is also Owen Power. Like, if we're being real about how they both play, it's the same thing. We've really talked so much earlier in the year about how Power like shows flashes of like how he could be so good at offense and how he can kind of dominate a game, and also will just get caved in his own end, will make terrible passes leading to turnovers and goals against. And you have these moments of frustration with him where it's like, I know what you can be. Why can't you just be that? And it's like Kevin Adams saw that frustration that we had, and it's like, what if we doubled it? What if we gave you the same exact like player with the same exact flaws and the same exact play style?
Yeah. It's been tough to watch. It's really been tough to watch. And that's kind of where, you have two guys like that in the system right now. Do you trust this coaching staff to develop these players and defensive players to grow their defensive game?
I do not. I am past the point of Don Granato right now. I just think everything points to there being an issue with him. On an individual level, he seems to be able to get like certain players to overperform at times. He seems to be helpful for development, but what we need right now, it feels like, is a structure. We need someone who can have the team play a certain way night in, night out from start to finish. A full 60 minutes. I don't need it to be the most crazy, complex thing. I want someone to say, or to like utilize the talent well. Like, it's got to be a system that's used, because at the end of the day, we're not going to be a like trap defense team with how the roster is currently built. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with seeing like maybe some rough defensive nights, but Don Granato tried to implement defense in a way that sacrificed the offense. And with how this roster is built, you can't do that, because if you don't have offense, you don't have anything.
Yeah.
So I want someone who can best utilize the talent of all of our players, not develop one player at a time to their best version of themselves. Right now, we need a more holistic approach, and that is not what I think Don Granato can give us.
Do you put any weight into Terry Pegula being at the last game, and that's the first game that he's been reportedly seen of the Sabres all season after that Maple Leafs game?
I did not notice. I did not hear anything about Terry Pegula being at that game, to be honest. This is news to me.
Yeah.
I don't really put weight in it. The reality of the situation, and what kind of makes it all more frustrating, is that Terry Pegula actually is a very big Sabres fan. Outside of having owned the team, when he first bought the team, like, the reason he was excited was because he was a big Sabres fan growing up. He watched a lot of Sabres hockey. He himself played hockey, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And like, that was exciting for the fans. That was exhilarating. Obviously, maybe we wish he liked hockey a little bit less than he does, because it seems like he's got his hands all over the organization. Yeah. But, If Terry Pegula is showing up at a game, obviously, yeah, there's a business side to it, right? Like you have to be considering what he's thinking about. But is he not allowed to just be like, you know what? I want to watch hockey because that is his sport of choice.
That's true. I mean, a lot of people were just taking into account that it comes after a game where you got 80% Leaf attendance, and then you have a 3-0 shutout. Like we mentioned, they got goalied in that game. They actually played a pretty good game. But then you can also put into the fact that the Bills just made a big trade today, and it's the day afterwards. So I don't know. I find it curious that it was his first game of the season. And to come in at like a very and supposedly he was the guy that told Botterill, you have to sign Jeff Skinner, and I don't care what the contract is. So maybe he was just coming out to support Jeff Skinner. You never know.
Perhaps,
he might be a Jeff Skinner guy.
Big Jeff Skinner fan.
But yeah, that was just another talk that I heard going around. I mean, most of my Sabres talk comes from WGR, so they were having that conversation today. So I was like, oh, that's interesting. I didn't think about that, but yeah, first game of the season. After that, and I'm like, all right.
We were talking about coaches, by the way. Tom says Lindy Ruff 2025.
I feel like it's almost destiny at this point. He's going to be back in the organization at some capacity. If it's not head coach, I feel like maybe, hockey operations. I just feel like the swell from the fans is going to push Terry Pegula to do this. This is just my feeling. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure about that. Like I think that Ruff would be an improvement over what we currently have, but I'm not sure I would choose for that repeat.
Yeah, I mean, we've had this conversation before. I really don't know what the options are for head coaches out there. So who would I want? I think a lot of Lindy's comes from nostalgia, and they know the way he coaches. So, obviously, you don't want. I think we're all learning now. You don't really want a Tortorella because the whole team's turning on him already in the second season after benching.
Oh yeah, this was the season that they overperformed, right? Like we've said it before that this is a guy who goes into bad teams, will get them to overperform, and then it falls apart, right? Like you maybe start losing the room, and that's what we're seeing right now with Philly at a very inopportune time for them because they are now like only 1 point ahead of the Capitals, with the Capitals having games in hand. So they're going to be in competition. Play each other too. Maybe, but they're going to be the ones finding themselves in competition with the Red Wings. So, that's not a good spot to be in if you're the Flyers, but maybe that works out well for us. Not for picking up Tortorella. I'm saying for the playoffs.
I was about to say, you better make that
yeah.
clear to everybody.
As far as coaches that have had recent success that are available, I'd probably say I think Gerard Gallant's not working right now.
He was with the Golden Knights, right?
He was with the Golden Knights for a while, and then he was with the Rangers the last 2 years. So, and before that, he was with the Florida Panthers, and they did pretty. Those numbers are okay. And then the last time before that, he was a head coach. It was in Columbus, which the numbers are bad there, but is that Gallant's fault? Who knows?
No. Do you know what Chris Breaker brought up? And I was kind of like,
Who did Chris Baker bring up?
Joel Quenneville. Yeah.
He had like scandals around him, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure that I would want the guy who had scandals around him being my head coach.
Yeah.
But no buts. No buts. No.
Yeah.
Shame on you, Chris. I really appreciate your opinion most times.
That one shocked me when he said that. And I was like, I mean, we don't need to take on that dirty laundry or whatever the hell happens afterwards.
Yeah. Oh, I forgot. So Quenneville got replaced when his team was on a 7-game win streak to start the season. So his team was 7-0 and he was replaced.
Yeah, he was down in Florida.
Yeah, to put that in perspective, the year before that, he had a 705 win percentage, which is insane. That is crazy numbers. And then you start the season 7-0. You have to have done something pretty bad for especially like hockey society to be like, all right, buddy, you got to get out of here.
I mean, Corey Perry's back in the NHL, so
yeah, that's something.
Yeah.
This is holy. So I'm just looking at Quenneville's career.
He's a good coach.
He has had an outstanding career as a coach in the NHL.
Yeah. I mean, he does something. If
this man did not have the dirty laundry attached to him, this would be an absolute yes. Although, if he did not have the dirty laundry attached to him, he would not be available right now.
Oh, no.
And he could choose anywhere to go, and it wouldn't be the Sabres. So
he would definitely not come to Buffalo at all.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that was just another name I heard. I was like, oh, I mean, I think out of all of them, Gerard Gallant, I mean, he took the Vegas Golden Knights in their first season. Was that to the Stanley Cup playoffs?
They went to the playoffs in the first season. I think they may have made it to the
Stanley finals, right?
Yeah, because they lost. That's the year that they lost to.
And Carlson was their highest goal scorer on that team.
Yeah, William Karlsson.
I mean, he's a third liner on that team right now, I think, or maybe even a fourth liner.
Yeah.
So he can. I mean, talk about a guy who can work with, underperforming players. He has.
I mean, yeah, that first group was the misfits.
Mm-hmm.
That's a coach who can take a group of misfits and take them to the Stanley Cup Finals. So,
yeah,
Gerard Gallant, if you're looking for a chilly place to coach some hockey, we're available.
Yeah,
probably, assuming that actually a coaching search is happening, which it's all speculation at our end. So, no. But Terry, please consider it, please.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, just want to take a moment to say hello, Caleb. I believe this is the first time seeing you here, so welcome. Thanks for showing up. Thanks for commenting. Glad to have you here.
Yeah, Caleb, thanks for coming on. Subscribe to the channel. We talk Sabres. We also have some Bills talk on this channel too. So,
and if you have any specific coach you'd like to see the Sabres hire, make sure to comment in chat so we can dissect that.
Discuss about it. Yeah, I mean, you guys drive the conversation too to help us out, especially this time of the year. So,
oh yeah, it's about to get quite dry. We've still got games to talk about, and it still feels like there's not too much to talk about right now.
No,
but yeah.
So, anyways, what are your 3 stars for the week, Sam?
Oh, moving right into the 3 stars. So,
unless you have something else to talk about.
Not particularly. Maybe, I mean, we could have some discussions about kind of like we were talking about Peyton Krebs earlier. He's an RFA at the end of the season, right? So like you could have a discussion. Who's coming back? Is Peyton Krebs a re-sign?
Who do we go over the?
You want the UFAs and RFAs?
Yeah.
So we've got Victor Olofsson. He's currently making $4.75.
Gone.
You got Zemgus at 2.5.
Kevin Adams was basically gushing about him after the trade deadline. I think he's unfortunate. I mean, nice guy. Thanks for being a Sabre for so long. He's unfortunately back to the team.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, Zemgus Girgenssen's at $2 million or whatever. If I wouldn't pay him $2.5, But if Zemgus Girgensons wants $2 million to stay here, he's fine. He's a serviceable NHLer.
And honestly, all-star for this team. Back the 10 Nolan year.
We've improved so much since then, to the point where he's actually a fourth liner now. And also somehow we haven't improved at all. Isn't it amazing how those things work?
I was thinking about the same exact thing the other day. This guy was an all-star, but it's kind of crazy in the NHL. It's like a GM gets to vote for a player on their team to be an all-star. And you look back on that roster and you're just like, oh boy.
I mean, he had like 20 goals that year, I think.
He did. He was their first line center.
Yeah. Isn't that great?
Him, Rasmus Ristolainen.
Oh, yeah. Rasmus Ristolainen was going to save the franchise, to be honest with you.
Many people thought that until he played over 20 minutes a night, and then they're like, oh, he can't be number one defenseman. Anyways, keep on going.
So Zemgus Girgensons is there. Tyson Jost, $2 million.
No, I can't believe he got $2 million. That's crazy.
Yeah. Honestly, I didn't dislike the idea. He was kind of a low-cost reclamation project. We picked him off waivers. He was a first-round pick years ago. It's not it. This isn't it. Move on.
Yeah. Vet mid. Should have been a vet mid. But anyways, keep going.
Yeah. Eric Robinson at $1.6 million.
No, we're good.
Okay.
I know he's probably a fourth liner or, our 13th guy. I'm good.
Yeah. And then Peyton Krebs.
They'll send him to arbitration and they'll sign him in arbitration. That's my prediction.
How much do you think he makes in arbitration? Let's say the contract's 2 years. How much does he make there?
Total or per year?
Per year. AAV.
I would say 2.4.
I feel like the most that he could actually get is 1.8. He doesn't have the points to show for it. He doesn't have some sort of elite defensive record to show for it. I mean, did
they take Bryson?
His team's losing.
Did they take Bryson arbitration
to get that 1.8 that he's currently on?
Yeah,
I do not know.
Because that would be comparable, right?
Yeah, because Bryson's currently on a 1.85 contract.
Okay.
But anyway, moving down the line, RFA, Henry Yokiharu.
I think they should sign him. And I think it should be longer than going to arbitration.
How many years? What's the contract?
Oh. You got a lot of money on defense right now. I would say I would give him, how old is he?
He's 24.
Okay. Bridge contract, 3 years, $3 million each. Kind of give him that Connor Clifton contract. So
I think that he demands more than that. And I'd be willing to pay up to 4.5. I do like 3 years, 4.5. Or if you could get him like 4 years, 4.5. That's a second pair defenseman who's played pretty well this year in a second pair role, locked up for 4 years at a pretty low contract.
So. I agree with you. I'm trying to think of what the Sabres will offer him if they're willing to do 4.5.
It feels like he's the odd one out, kind of, with
which sucks.
The roster. Yeah, because he's been one of the better defensemen for us, more consistent as well than most of the defensemen on our roster.
Would you say he's been our second best defenseman this whole season?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Easily. I wholeheartedly believe that.
Yeah, I agree.
You don't even have to do much convincing.
Yeah. And that's what sucks about it. That he's the odd man out.
And he's going to be the one that we try and get rid of at the end of the year.
Oh, don't tell me that. Anyways,
down the line, you have Jacob Bryson. At
I was going to have to. Did I ask you? Do you think he's a? I was going to ask you. Do you think he's our 7th defenseman next year? But I think you just gotta let him go. I mean, he's been playing solid, but we're kind of at a logjam right now, right?
The way that it's lined up, I think it's like Connor Clifton would be the 7th defenseman. So
you think so?
Probably, because you have going just Rasmus Dahlin, Owen Power, Henry Yokiharu, Bowen Byram, Samuelson, and Johnson, and then Connor Clifton.
Oh,
I don't see.
I forgot about Johnson too, and that's bad. I like the way he played.
I like Johnson. I think that he's a good addition and will continue to be. But that leaves Connor Clifton as the 7th, and I like the way he's played too.
That's a recent, since the second half of the year.
In the second half of the year, he figured it out. He got his stuff together. And I think that allows you to comfortably part with Jacob Bryson unless he wants to come in at a AHL contract basically and say, hey, you're going to be the 8th guy. That's your role.
I could see a team offering him a contract like a two-way between the NHL and AHL. I mean, the Ottawa Senators? I can see him on the Ottawa Senators. He feels like an Ottawa Senators type of player next year.
No, honestly, I'd be like, it would feel good seeing him end up on the Ottawa Senators.
Or he could be a Shark too. I mean, whatever teams are tanking.
Yeah. Anyway, defenseman Cale Clegg is an RFA at the end of the season. He's currently making $775.
We're kind of getting I think he's gone. I know he was the next guy up before Stillman. No, he's gone.
Yeah, I think that you got Stillman, you got that one Russian guy in the A. Actually, Stillman also gets a new contract at the end of the year.
Who's the guy? Who's the guy they got from Florida? The defenseman.
Yeah, some AHL defenseman for Kyle Okposo or whatever.
Yeah. Because I wonder how many years he has.
He's not a guy that you're going to look at and be like, that's an NHLer. So I don't really think about him. He's an AHL contract as well. Like, he's not even an NHL contract.
That's what I'm thinking. I mean, if Cale Clegg is not going to really be an NHL player too, so I'm just wondering the Amerks roster. So
yeah.
Anyway.
But you got the one Russian guy down there who's a prospect still. He's only 19.
Novikov.
Nikita Novikov. And he seems like he'll be maybe playing for a call-up in the next few years. So
yeah,
I'm not too worried about letting Stillman go. You have enough defensemen around.
Surprisingly.
And that brings us to goalies. Everyone, the big hot topic right now, Eric Comrie. UFA at the end of the year, $1.8 million.
Thank you for your service, Comrie. Just didn't work out, man. It didn't even work out in the AHL for you.
Yeah.
There's something about backup goaltenders trying to become a starter in Buffalo, and it just all falling apart because poor Carter Hutton, the same exact thing. He had that eye issue when he came over to Buffalo.
I can't believe we got the guy and he just happened to go blind that year.
Yeah. I mean, I met him. Nice guy.
Yeah.
Feel bad for him. So, I mean, I guess, do you think the Sabres bring in a veteran goaltender next year?
No.
Okay.
I don't. I think it's going to be UPL and Levi next year, and you ride that tandem. I mean, honestly, I don't think it'll be that bad.
No.
I have more confidence in it this year, or going into next year, than I did going into this year.
Yeah. I mean, as long as they're not doing a 3 goalie rotation up, I mean, that's the one thing that screwed them over at the beginning of the season. Just stick to 2. You don't need a veteran. I mean, if Craig Anderson's going to still be around, let him be the mentor for these guys. I mean, heck, the guy dresses up for practices too when the goalie's injured or sick. So that's all I'm saying.
Did you see that Scott Ratzlaff made his way to the AHL? Goalie for the Washington Washington like juniors team. I don't know what they're actually called. Like, might be like the Thunderbirds or something.
Yeah, it was the Thunderbirds. You're right. I did
cannot
see that.
believe I knew that. Anyway, so he's now making his way to the AHL. So it seems like we kind of got a pipeline of goalies. You got Tapais Leinonen, who is not looking great right now, but
The
goalies
goalie?
have their own. The Finnish guy.
Yeah.
Goalies have their own paths. You know, they there's a lot of ebbing and flowing that happens.
When Comrie was down there, they had 4 goaltenders in Rochester.
Yeah, they had to ship Cooley over to the Sharks, which is cool because he's actually he's a Californian.
Yeah,
I think he was the first Californian to ever suit up as a goalie for one of the California teams.
Really?
Yeah,
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, well, gets to play in front of his home crowd. Like that's guys getting the chance to live the dream.
Yeah.
Albeit in front of a terrible Sharks team, but definitely more than he was ever going to get here. So good for him.
Do you think Comrie gets another shot at an NHL roster?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Comrie has had a proven track record as a backup goalie. He's 28 years old. Goalies are often, like they get better as they age into their 30s. Like,
yeah.
I see him getting a contract as a backup goalie, and hopefully for his sake, he gets to be a true backup goalie instead of whatever we tried with him here.
Yeah, what is going on with him here?
Yeah.
I mean, he's up, but hey, you're not playing. So
yeah, he's up. He's the third goalie. And when we had him playing, he was the primary goalie like back years ago, and that did not work. Again, I liked the idea of the signing. The analytics said that he had everything kind of going for him to have the kind of jump that you see from backup goalie to starter. And he was just locked behind Connor Hellebuck.
That's true.
Everything about him just screamed like, this is a good idea. You sign him. It was a $1.8 million contract. Absolutely like no investment there. And it just didn't work out. So I'm defending Kevin Adams on this signing specifically, even though it's been weird. I don't know that I can defend him on keeping him as like the third goalie in the rotation. I don't know why you'd ever have 3 goalies up, but whatever. I think it's just one of those things where you're just trying to like buy time until he's off the roster. And we actually did end up sending Devin Levi back down. So
yeah, that happened today, right?
Yep. So he's going to continue help making the push for the Amerks to the playoffs, which, I mean, I feel like is a whole nother conversation, which we can probably have next week since we're already an hour in here.
Yeah. No.
And we haven't gotten through our 3 stars or what's happening next week.
Yeah. So, yeah. Sam, we'll move on to 3 stars then. That was a good transition.
What a perfect segue. So I think for me personally, the 3 stars of the week are going to be Rasmus Dahlin as our 3rd star of the week. I'm going to go with, I wanted to say Jack Quinn because of his triumphant return, but let's be honest, it wasn't that triumphant, but he is getting better. So expect a Jack Quinn star next week. Hopefully. Come on, Jack. Yeah. Don't let me down here. So instead, I'll give it to his buddy, JJ Peterka, 2nd star of the week. We talked about it. He has, what did I say, like 7 points in the last 5 games, 4 of which happened during this week. So good on you, JJ. You had 3 points in that Caps game. And then I'm giving it to his line mate, Tage Thompson, 1st star. 4 goals against the Devils. You had 3 points in the game against the Capitals. He's managed to turn it on. He's turned on the offense during this last stretch of the year, playing with JJ. So love to see that. It makes you at least a little hopeful for the future that what we saw earlier in the year wasn't what we were going to get for the rest of that contract, because that is a long contract.
Yeah. Yeah. It's good that your future captain is still playing with heart out there. He's the heart of the soul of the team right now. You can see that.
Yeah.
This is the first week, maybe in months, that neither of us have a goalie in our top 3 stars.
Yeah.
And with that, Sam, I gotta say, I have all those guys as my top 3 stars for those exact same reasons.
What can I say? I'm very smart.
Well, I don't know if that is.
I make the best choices, the best picks, really, when you think about it.
I was gonna give a hat tip to Alex Tuck too. He's had a pretty solid week as well. I think he's had 5 points over the 5 games. Right?
Yeah, I mean that whole line has been clicking.
So. Yeah, so I think that was the only other guy I was gonna be. I mean, but Dahlin, you can't leave him out of the top 3, especially after last night's game. The guy was on fire last night. He was the only guy playing all 60 minutes that game.
And when he was out there, he was absolutely dictating play.
Yeah.
And he was shooting. I think the pairing of him and Owen Power have looked great together.
Yeah.
Sorry, Bowen, but now you're playing with our second best defenseman instead of our best one. So
yeah.
But it is worthwhile. I think anyone who's watching all the games still, check out Bowen Byram under a critical lens. I would watch him. I watch him like every single play, every time he touches the puck. Watch what he's doing. It's fun sometimes. It's really fun. He makes some great offensive plays, but he's been a disaster. Hopefully by saying this, we've bullied him into doing well like we sometimes do. But
when he watches this and realizes, oh man, I'm not the sweetheart of the team anymore. I need to figure something else out. Yeah. I haven't watched him too closely, but I noticed little things. So now that you pointed it out more, I'll be sure to watch him for the next couple of games that we have coming up.
Yeah. But I think that's been part of helping Dahlin really show how good he is again and dominate play more, because to be honest, Owen Power is playing better than or at least more well-rounded than Bowen Byram right now. And I think that's helpful. You don't have to make up for the mistakes of another guy constantly.
So Dahlin's like a 3x power up. So whatever defenseman pairs with him, he just makes them significantly better. He got Matthias Samuelsson, that 7-year, $28 million deal.
Again, I still think that Matthias Samuelsson could play up to that contract or even exceed it. Yeah. But this was not a good start to that contract. And again, none of those players that sign big contracts are off to a great start, including Power.
And I wonder if the Sabres are going to stay away from those type of contracts now.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how, because when those were coming out, everyone thought Kevin was a genius. And now I'm curious to see if the approach is going to be more cautious or if he's going to stick to his guns and continue doling out those big contracts. And to be honest, some of the players I would still be pretty excited about if you give a big contract to Quinn. I guess Quinn needs that extra year to prove it because he's been hurt so much. But JJ seems like he might start figuring something out. And if you can lock him up before he's going to be a 50-goal scorer, that would be nice.
Yeah. I mean, this guy, Peterka, he's the one I'm going to be watching out for because, hey, what type of deal are you going to give this guy? Because you're going to shell out another 7-year deal because that can come back and, shoot you back in the face. So, anyways, so like we were talking, the next upcoming games, we're going to pay attention to Bowen Byram. On Friday, we face Philadelphia at 7 p.m. That's the team that's currently they're still third in their division for that playoff spot. Right outside the wild card spot, the last one, we face Detroit after that on Sunday. And then Tuesday, we play the Dallas Stars. Dallas and Detroit are away games, and Philadelphia is our second last home game of the season. Sam, what are your thoughts on those games? What are you expecting from the team?
So, this is we have the opportunity to do the funniest thing. Could you imagine, right? We're facing the Flyers and the Red Wings this week.
No.
The Flyers are on a 5-game losing streak right now. The Capitals, they're on a 3-game losing streak. The Red Wings are on a 1-game win streak, or they've won their last game, and they are currently not in the wild card spot. So they're actually the closest. We're closest to catching them.
Yeah.
You win the game against the Flyers, and you win the game against the Red Wings, and all of a sudden you've gained 4 points on each of them.
Mm-hmm.
And then you got a game against the Capitals again after the Stars game.
At home.
Let's say theoretically, you get your first 4-game win streak this year. All of a sudden, you're plus 4 points on quite a lot of teams ahead of you.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Wouldn't it be funny if 0.9%
worked out? I mean,
wouldn't that be such a funny thing?
It's just crazy that none of these teams want this last wild card spot.
No, they're all just begging someone to take it from them.
All these teams are like meddling about not knowing what to do. It's just like bumbling idiots trying to figure out, do I want to be in the playoffs or do I want a better draft pick? What should we do?
They're just sitting there screaming, won't somebody please take this spot from us? You can only lose so many games in a row.
Yeah.
But, I'm thankful for it.
I mean, if the Sabres out of all these teams to make the playoffs, it would probably benefit the Sabres in the long term, right? Then you get these players with playoff experience.
Yeah.
And then maybe you get some fan excitement at the next year. The only bad thing is, Don Granato will probably come back. So
yeah, that seems to be your issue. But as far as playoffs go, like you look at the remaining teams, and the playoffs would definitely benefit us and the Red Wings the most. You got a young team here, get the playoff experience, even if you don't make it a deep run, get the level of intensity, the level of structure that you need to play in a playoff series. Get that under your belt. Roll it into next year. Same with the Red Wings. They were coming off a rebuild. I feel like their situation is a little different because they have gone out and acquired more outside hires in more impact positions. Like, we have outside hires. It's like Eric Comrie and Connor Clifton, right? Like that's cool.
Yeah.
The Flyers, they're a little ahead of schedule right now. Like they still have some rebuilding to do, it feels like. I don't imagine them being in a playoff spot come next year. And the Capitals, they are an aging core. That is a group of geriatric patients at this point. So
they looked bad. They looked really bad. Anyways, keep going.
My point being, as far as like playoffs for them, like, cool. Maybe a last playoff season for Ovechkin before his team just rides him to that goal record. But it would be really nice for the Sabres team to make it. Again, we've said it the whole time. You need to win games. That's not a thing we seem keen on doing. So,
yeah, and if they beat the Flyers and the Red Wings, that team sandwich between the Red Wings and the Capitals, they're on a 7-game win streak right now. And they're beating
Red Wings and the Capitals?
Yeah, right? Tuesday on the 9th, they play the Dallas Stars.
Oh,
on the schedule.
I thought you were looking at the.
No, not the standings. The schedule.
The standings, the schedule. Yes, they are on a 7-game win streak. That is a team that is going to be hard to beat. I was maybe a little more optimistic about facing them than you were heading into the stretch like 2 weeks ago, but we still got this.
Because you look at the Panthers, and the Panthers, let me go to the Panthers real quick. They've been skidding out right now too.
Yeah, they're 2-7-1 in their last 10.
Yeah. So that's a beatable team. And then you face the Lightning, and you beat the Lightning earlier this season too. So
they're 8-1-1 though.
Oh, I didn't know that about them. So
they've had a pretty good stretch down the run here.
I mean, they're like kind of like on like the waning years of their dynasty. Like, they're still hanging on.
They still have their firepower, and they can still make a team pay if they think that they're going to walk over the older team. But that is kind of scary to see them ramping up their production going into the playoffs.
Yeah.
So.
Do they have any guys coming off a long-term IR for the playoffs or what?
Oh, I'm sure Kucherov and Stamkos and.
Yeah.
Actually, I think they've been a pretty healthy team through the majority of the year.
That's what it sounds like. And next year, they might not have Stamkos back. So I don't know how much of a loss is for that team, though.
They'll probably get Stamkos back, and it'll probably be a pretty team-friendly contract.
You think so?
Yeah.
I think they had some issues earlier in the offseason, during the offseason this year, about him complaining about like his contract.
Yeah, he did that the last time his contract was up too.
Oh, well, never mind then.
Yeah.
So anyways, yeah, I mean, Sabres, play like you did the last game, the last 2/3 of the game. I mean, the last 2/3 of your last game. Just play like that. Show some heart. I mean, this is all I'm going to ask for. I'm not even asking for playoffs. Just show like the end of this season means to you like last season. Yeah. I know playoffs is the ultimate goal, but if you can roll into next season, some heart and tenacity, take that into the offseason, whatever that is.
It's pretty exciting, though. We do get meaningful games in April 2 years in a row.
Yeah. When was the last time that happened?
13 years ago.
I was looking at the points too, and it blows my mind that you have teams like San Jose and the Blackhawks who are at San Jose is at 42 points. I don't even think were the Sabres that bad. I can't remember what the Sabres points were back when they got down.
No, this has to be like a Colorado Avalanche level of like historic bad.
And their their goal differential, Sam, -133.
That's terrible. That is a bona fide terrible team. Yeah. It's so amusing. They got scored on. Earlier in the year they had like 10 goals against in back-to-back games.
Yeah.
It's like how do you manage that? Like surely you get crushed one game and you kind of have a little bit of angst about it, you know? Going into that next game, surely you have a little bit of a little bit of kick, but no. They just rolled over even further. It's like,
I mean, at least the Sabres came back after those games, but yeah, I can't imagine. What are San Jose Sharks games like for the fans? Do they even care in San Jose? They have a good fan base.
They've got a pretty good fan base when they're in the playoffs, but I think at the current hour, they're just waiting until Celebrini comes along, perhaps.
Yeah, well, they're fighting with the Blackhawks too because they're at 49 points.
Yeah,
I mean that's pretty bad too. I mean, wow,
it's gonna be really funny when we swoop in and steal that pick because I'm pretty sure like if we don't make the playoffs, like it feels like we'll be in one of those lottery spots because we're gonna be behind a lot of the teams in the West.
Because I think the other stat they were saying the other day is it's either the Sabres, if they won against the Capitals, they were like at around a 1% chance of making the playoffs, but they're at a 5% chance of getting the first overall pick. So
yeah, so like we're kind of towing that line right now.
Yeah,
it'll be fun to see which side we fall on to.
Yeah,
way, I guess.
So yeah, I mean, we got a big week coming up, Sam. That's what we're trying to say here.
What I'm trying to say is basically either win out or lose out.
Yeah, figure out what you want to do for the rest of the season.
Pick one of the two sides. Don't middle road it. Don't go 3-3. You gotta win out. You gotta lose out. Those are the two options I'll take. I'll see you against. What is it? The Flyers. We'll see what you do against the Flyers, and from there we can choose what we're doing.
That sounds like a plan to me, Sam. Anyways, we're going to wrap this show up. It's been around an hour and a half, hour 20. Appreciate everyone for watching. If you have not, please like and subscribe to our channel. We do this every week. We've been mostly Tuesdays. This week was Wednesday for a special reason.
Yeah.
But yeah. And then after you're done watching this, if you're still watching us, there's an NFL one going on right now about the Bills, and they're talking about Stephon Diggs. So go ahead and join them over there. Anyways, thank you, everyone. Have a good night.